How's it going, everyone? It's your man, MrHomebrew. I hope everyone's staying safe throughout this time in our lives. Now, I just wanted to announce that Android 10 has officially been released for the Nintendo Switch. I know many people have been very anxious and anticipating this release for a very long time. So have we. The developers have been working very hard. A lot of people have been putting in time, effort, and work to make this happen for everyone. And now that it's official, very happy and exciting. Now, first thing you're going to want to do, going to start this up real quickly, is you're going to want to boot up your Nintendo Switch in the atmosphere or stock OS, as you might want to call it, with your regular Joycons, not no alternatives. Have your stock Joycons connected to your Nintendo Switch. Make sure you've booted up stock OS or atmosphere, and like I said, connected your Joycons. This is going to be useful for you later when it comes to connecting your Joy-Cons through Bluetooth in Android 10 and not having to resync them in Android 10 once you, say, dual boot back into Atmosphere or stock OS. In this video, I'm more just going to be covering getting Android 10 working on a spare micro SD card that I have here. You could, in the process, if you were using just one micro SD card, back up all your files and then format it as FAT32. That is recommended. And then follow the procedure and then afterwards merge in your Atmosphere files or whatever you want so that you can get it running. Yes, you can dual boot, tri boot, but for this video, we're going to show you how to get it running. Now, it'll help you get more familiar and then you can fool around later, right? So, here we go. Now, what you're going to want to do, like I said, boot up your Nintendo Switch, have your Joy-Cons attached so they'll be synced with your Atmosphere or stock OS. Then you're going to want to power off your Nintendo Switch completely. I'm going to turn that off. You'll want to remove your micro SD card. Back up any important files if you're going to be using the same one that you've been using for all your homebrew needs and RetroArch and everything like that. And make sure it's formatted as FAT32 when you continue. But for me, I'm going to be using a spare micro SD card. It's already formatted as FAT32. I'm going to say it again. Make sure you're formatted as FAT32. I use Mini-Tool Partition Wizard. And then I made sure I formatted as FAT32 and made sure it was a primary partition. Now you're going to want to download files in the description. I'm going to make sure all the download links are in the description below for everybody. And when it comes to what you're going to have to download, you're going to want to download, first and foremost, download Android 10, which is going to be the icosa-tablet-2021-0205-rel.zip. You're going to want to download Android 10, description below. Optionally, you can download the Joycon-Xbox zip. That zip is going to be used for having your Joy-Cons mapped in a fashion more similar to what an Xbox controller would be. So you can imagine the A button being on the bottom, the B button on the right, the X button on the left, and the Y button on top. You'd want to flash that zip also. So you would download the Joycon-Xbox zip. And then you're also going to want to download the alarm-disable zip. Now the alarm disable zip is a lot better for sleep mode. It disables notifications and everything like that. If you do want notifications, then maybe don't install it. That's why I said these two are optional. But for sleep mode purposes and getting better battery life, you're going to want to install the alarm disable zip, which is going to disable those notifications from waking up your Nintendo Switch when it's in sleep mode when you're running Android 10. Now, after that, you're also going to want to download Hekate. I'll have a link in the description below for that. And then you're going to want to download the Open Google Apps ARM64 for Android 10.0, the Nano package. Now, I'm going to have a link in the description for that too. Now, it'll make things a little easier for you guys. Now, what you're going to want to do is have your micro SD card connected to your computer. You're going to want to make sure you back up any necessary files Won't be responsible if you delete anything you don't mean to or format anything you don't mean to. Make sure you back up necessary files if there's anything on it. Again, I recommend using a spare one for learning purposes and for getting familiar with things. Now, what you're going to want to do first is you're going to want to open up your micro SD card, the root of your micro SD card. So I'm going to do that right now. And on the root of my SD card, I'm going to drag over, well, first, you're going to go into the Android 10, the icosa-tablet-2021-0205-REL zip. You're going to want to go into that with 7-zip, I recommend, for extracting these files. Don't use the base extractor in Windows 10. You'll end up with issues. So use 7-zip or something else. I recommend 7-zip. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to drag and drop or extract all these files that are inside the Android 10 zip. So it'll be the bootloader folder, the switch root, and the Lineage 17.1 zip are all going to be dragged and dropped to your micro SD card, which is going to extract those files and copy them over to your micro SD card. I'm going to give that a moment. Shouldn't take too long. Now, after you've done that, optionally, like I said, but it is recommended, I recommend it, you can install or copy over for now the Joycon Xbox zip and the alarm disable zip over to the root of your micro SD card also. So I'm going to highlight both of those. I'm going to wait for my copy process to finish with what I was extracting originally to my micro SD card before I start transferring something else. There we go. Then I'm going to copy over the Joycon Xbox zip and the alarm disable zip over to my micro SD card, formatted as FAT32. Remember that. Then I'm going to go inside the Hekate zip and you're going to drag and drop the bootloader folder. Now, the Hekate, the bin file, that's the actual payload that you send from either your RCM loader or Tegra RCM, or if you're sending it from Android, however you're sending your payload to your Nintendo Switch. That's your payload file, but you don't need to drag and drop that to your Nintendo Switch. Now, also, you're going to want to drag and drop over the Open Google Apps ARM64 for Android 10.0, the Nano package. The Nano package. So you're going to drag and drop that also to the root of your micro SD card. At the end of copying over all these folders and zip files, you should in total on your micro SD card end up with a total of 6 items, 2 folders, a bootloader folder, switch root folder, and then the Lineage 17.1 whatever zip file, then the Joycon Xbox zip file, the alarm disable zip file, and then the Open Google Apps ARM64 Android 10 Nano file. Total of 6 items. You're going to close out of that. Close out of this if you want. I'm going to close out of all that for now. I'm going to extract my micro SD card from Windows properly. Once it tells you you're safe to remove your micro SD card to avoid corruption. Always eject it through the operating system properly. Now, I'm going to take my micro SD card. I'm going to put it into my Nintendo Switch. I'm going to grab my RCM loader with my Hekate payload on it. I'm going to push the power button to initialize boot, and I'm going to start holding volume down. Right after I hit power, I started holding volume down automatically. So you can boot into Hekate. I'm going to cancel. I'm not setting up the date and time right now. Now, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to first go into your NICs options, and you're going to want to dump Joycon Bluetooth. These are the files in regards to being able to sync your Joy-Cons through Bluetooth to Android, and also with Atmosphere or stock OS on your Nintendo Switch, and not having to worry about resyncing your Joy-Cons through Bluetooth on Android the next time you boot up Android on. So I've done that, and it's been officialized. You want to make sure when you do click that, it says found 2 out of 2 Joy-Con pairing data. Both pairing data are HOS based. Good. That means that I had them paired in Atmosphere or stock OS before I booted in to Atmosphere to dump those files on my micro SD card that I'm using for Android. Now, what you're going to want to do next is click Tools, and you're going to want to click arc.bit.rcm.touch.partitions. Right here at the bottom right, you're going to want to click that, and then it's going to give you a couple of options. You're going to want to click Partition SD card. It's going to examine your SD card. Now, here, you can choose your format for your SD card. So if you wanted Atmosphere as the top one, then you got your EMU, MMC, then you got your Linux and your Android. Now, for this purpose, I'm just going to leave space for Atmosphere and for Android. So what I'm going to leave for stock OS or for Atmosphere is 10 gigabytes. And then I'm going to leave another 169 gigabytes for Android itself. So I've set up my partition scheme. I'm going to click Next. And it's going to give me a warning. Make sure you've backed up all necessary files, everything like that. You're going to click Start. Now, it's going to start to partition your micro SD card in a format that's going to be used for Android and for Atmosphere in this tutorial, basically. I'm just showing how to do Android. Obviously, we need to copy your Atmosphere files and everything over to your HOS partition that is there, that you're leaving out. For me, it's the 10 gigabytes. You could do that later. This way you can dual boot. You can set up your dual boot and everything later on if you want, once you familiarize yourself with this. So what it's doing is it's formatting everything that's on the micro SD card, but in the process it's also backing up everything that was there that we had transferred over from Windows just a moment ago in the before step. And as it's formatting it, it's also restoring those files back into the position they need to be so that you're good to go. You don't have to connect your micro SD card back into the computer and transfer everything over. Hekate is very reliable. Good job, CTC, for that. And overall, Android 10 is a lot more stable than it's been in the past. It's still restoring files, so I'm going to give you some information. It's far more stable than what it was in the past. There is sleep mode, so you can enjoy sleep mode and not have to worry about your battery degrading or your Switch having to be put straight to sleep whenever you're done using it for Android. You can actually enjoy sleep mode and wake it back up for immediate use. On top of that, the Joy-Cons, the analog sticks, used to be 8 directional. They're no longer 8 directional. They do have precise direction, so you can go slightly up, left, and it'll recognize that, as opposed to thinking you've pushed all the way up left and that's it. Or if you're pushing left just a little bit, before in old Android that was running on Nintendo Switch, it used to think as soon as you push left a tiny bit that you were pushing left all the way. Now you have those incremental movements with your analog sticks, so you can actually enjoy your first-person shooters on Android 10 on the Nintendo Switch a lot more fluidly and a lot easier to control. Should be finished in just a moment. This should be the last zip file that it's restoring. I'm also going to take the time to show you how I would install the zip files and everything in Android once you get into your custom recovery TWRP in the next step. I would advise to install these things in the way I'm showing it, in the order I'm showing it, because it seems to boot up and work best for me in this order and for most people. So what you're going to want to do now that it's partitioned everything is you're going to want to click Flash Android. It's going to ask you if you want to flash the kernel, the DTB, and the TWRP, your custom recovery, on top of that, all at once. So you click continue. It's going to install those necessary files and information for Android to run. It's asking me if I want to reboot into TWRP, my custom recovery, for the next step before you get booted into Android. You could push continue, but I'm going to click no for now because I'm going to take a second to show you guys exactly how you would boot into TWRP, say after you're done this install process and you want to do it manually and go into TWRP. So if you were to stick in your RCM jig or whatever, send your payload immediately, you would start holding volume up after the Hekate icon or logo pops up. So I'm going to do it here. You're going to click more configs. You can boot into switch root Android 10. I'm going to click that. I'm going to wait. You're going to see the Hekate logo. As soon as it disappears, I'm holding volume up. I'm holding volume up still continuously. And this is going to allow it to boot into TWRP, custom recovery, for the next step. Like I said, you could click continue where it asked you to in Hekate. But for this purpose, I'm teaching you how to manually boot into TWRP, your custom recovery, after the fact once this is all done in the process. So there you go. We're in TWRP. You're going to click never show the screen again. Swipe to allow modifications. Now, next step. I'm going to go to install. I'm going to click up a level. Then I'm going to go to an external SD. Now my external SD, I should see all my zips that I need to install. So first you're going to want to select the Lineage 17.1-2021 whatever .zip. That's the Android 10 zip. So the Lineage 17.1 zip, you're going to select that first. Then you're going to click add more zips. Then you're going to click Joycon Xbox zip if you want more of a Xbox layout for your Joy-Cons in Android. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to click add more zips. I'm going to also install the alarm disable zip. And then I'm going to lastly install the Open Google Apps ARM64 Android 10 Nano package. I'm going to swipe to confirm. Don't worry about the errors. Let it continue. Let it do its thing. Shouldn't take too long. Depending on your micro SD card, it should be pretty good. It could take a little longer if you're using a slower micro SD card. I usually recommend a SanDisk or especially a Samsung micro SD card. Something fast. This is what I usually use when it comes to Android, is my Samsung right here. That's the one I usually use when it comes to running Android 10. My 512 gigabyte Samsung micro SD card is really quick. It's responsive. And I like to use things that are reliable. Now, right now, your custom recovery or TWRP is installing Android 10, the Lineage 17.1 zip. And because you clicked add more and you added the Xbox, the Joy-Con Xbox zip, and then you clicked add more again, and you installed the alarm disable zip, and then you added more, and you installed the Open Google Apps zip, it's going to go through those one by one and install them all. So you don't have to go back out into the menu and install the next one manually and then wait for it to finish. It's going to jump to each of those and it's going to finish up all of them all at once, and you're going to be good to go. So I'm going to wait for this to finish up. Make sure everything installs properly. Right now it's just about done installing Android 10 itself, then it should go through the 2 optional packages. As I said, it's up to you if you want to install the Xbox layout zip and the alarm disable zip, but I would advise installing both of those. And the alarm disable zip is going to extend your battery life far more when it comes to being in sleep mode, because it's going to disable notifications that'll wake up your Nintendo Switch when it's running in sleep mode. And we all know that Android tends to get a lot more notifications than, say, the Nintendo Switch OS or Atmosphere or anything like that. Those things stay in deep sleep. You don't want little notifications waking up your Nintendo Switch when you're trying to conserve your battery and keep it in sleep mode. So that's why I say install the alarm disable zip too. Be patient. Depending on your micro SD card, your speeds may be faster or slower. I'm doing this in real time. I'm not trying to fast forward or anything. I'm trying to give you a real live experience of exactly what it's like to install Android 10 on your Nintendo Switch. So it's installed Lineage. It moved on to the Xbox zip, the alarm disable zip, and now it's installing your open Google apps. Those are all your Google apps, like your Play Store and Google account and everything. It's making sure all that's installed with Lineage so that you don't have to worry about going into the Play Store and getting all that running. And you want to install all this before you boot up Android for the first time. Make sure you install all of these zips before you boot up Android for the first time. It'll be more reliable that way. If you go and install open Google apps or your Google app zip after the fact, you may run into a couple of errors. It's not guaranteed, but this is the recommended way of getting things running fresh and good for the initial boot up of Android 10 so you can enjoy it more smoothly. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the time and effort that's gone into this. The developers have done a lot to get this to the point it's at now. All the fixes, all the bugs, all the work that's needed to be done, and features that needed to be implemented that weren't in Android, specifically, I guess, in regards to the Joycons, Nintendo Switch, everything like that. A lot of it's been resolved. There are a couple of things that need to be taken care of, but all in due time. Obviously, this is going to be released publicly now because it is most stable at this point in time. If you do run into some issues or bugs or anything like that, don't just rant and rave, maybe ask for help. Maybe there's something you can do to fix the issue. Maybe it's a known issue. Most likely it is a known issue. So try not to harass or bug the developers too much. It's good to ask them or let them know about things you've run into. Try to get them a log file so that they can look into the log file and see what might be going on and how they can fix it in a future update. Updates are done over the air with Lineage 17.1 on the Nintendo Switch, which is great. Everything finished up. I got failed to mount cache and data, unable to mount storage. That doesn't matter. Those last errors are good. Open Google Apps installed and everything like that, so I'm good to go. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to click Reboot System. I'm going to boot into Hekate. And because I got Auto RCM, I could just click Reboot and it automatically rebooted into Hekate. I'm going to click More Configs. Switch root, Android 10. Now when you do reboot from TWRP, after it's installed all those zips, make sure you're holding volume down to get into Hekate as I just did there. Keep that in mind. I have a feeling someone might ask, how did you get into Android after you exited out of TWRP? That's what I just did. I made sure when I clicked reboot, and I have Auto RCM on my Nintendo Switch and everything, it automatically was able to reboot. And as it was rebooting, I held volume down, and it was able to reboot right back into Hekate, and it was good to go. I clicked More Configs, then I picked Switch Root, Android 10, and boom, good to go. Now I'm giving it a second. Got a bit of a black screen there. don't be too shocked. It is working. It is doing its thing. Things are going the way they should. Just be patient. As I am kind of showing you here, you have to be patient. If you have a slower micro SD card, it may take a little longer the first time around, as you're seeing here, to actually get to the boot up animation, which should be coming up fairly soon. I would say on my Nintendo Switch with my micro SD card. Look at that. Right on call. If you're using a slower micro SD card, that part right there might have took a little bit longer. Could have took an extra 20 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe a minute. I don't know specifically, but it depends on if you're using a really slow and cheap micro SD card, you're probably going to run into slowdowns, issues, and bugs. So use something that's proper, well-known on the market, and that's not a knockoff. So here we are. Nintendo Switch is finishing the install process. I can hear the fan is kicking in a little bit on the Nintendo Switch right now, but that's okay. It's working a little harder to get it booted up and get everything ready to go for the first time. I'd rather it take the time and ramp itself up and put in the extra power and save me a little bit of time on that first boot up. So that's obviously what it's doing. The fan is ramping up a bit just to make sure you don't get no overheating or anything like that. And that's something that has been worked on too, is the fan profiles. When it comes to the Nintendo Switch running Android 10, you will notice that your Nintendo Switch will, through regular use, not through, say, demanding use, the fan should remain fairly quiet majority of the time. You shouldn't just hear it spinning at, say, 50% or 75% when you're just sitting on the home screen. It will quiet right down to the point where you might not even hear it until you put your ear right to your Nintendo Switch. So the Switch is just booting up right now. Didn't take too long. Take the time to go through the install process here and get yourself all booted up. You'd be good to go. Click start. I'm going to skip connecting to my network for now. Just to speed up the install process. Got my time set up. I'm going to click next for date and time. Free space. Use location. I'm going to turn that off. Send diagnostic data. Turn that off. I'm going to accept. Go to the next step. I'm going to click not now for password. I'm going to skip anyway. Help improve Lineage OS, not at this time. Next, restore from backup. No, I'm going to skip that. I'm going to click start. Bang. Android 10 is booted up. Turn the brightness down. I know it was a little bright there for a bit. It was a little out of my control as I was getting things done real quickly. Camera may not have adjusted quite the way it needed to at certain points, but I explained it in good detail verbally as I was going through the process. So there we go. Booted up. Good to go. I'm pretty happy. No complaints. Pretty fast. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could have set up your Google account, logged into your Wi-Fi and everything on the steps I just skipped. I did that for a reason. Now, your man, MrHomebrew, I'm going to have a lot more videos for you guys in regards to Android 10 running on the Nintendo Switch. A lot of tips and tricks. I'm going to show you guys the best way I like to run my home screen when it comes to the navigation buttons and themes. I'm going to recommend certain apps, alternative Joycons, everything. I'm going to help you guys get the best out of what you're doing. Dock mode does work, and I hope you guys can like, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. Help support the channel. Much appreciated. All the best. Stay safe, stay positive, and stay healthy. Peace.